Conceive, believe, achieve. Shut the up.
You're listening to Believe You Me with Michael the Count Bisping and Paul Felder.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with the Believe You Me podcast. Myself, the Irish Dragon. We got Eddie Alvarez fighting in Philadelphia. We got Conor McGregor announcing fights. We got UFC Saudi Arabia. We got Brian in the background and Paul Felder, the Irish Dragon. How the hell are you, Paul?
I'm good, man. I just got back. Just went and crushed a short little 12-mile run this morning. The weather here on the East Coast is nice and warm, about 38 degrees. But that's an improvement, Michael. That's an improvement for us right now. We've been in the 20s and the teens lately. So 30-something, I said, let me get out there. Let me go do it. Other than that, it was good. I watched those fights last night as well. I fell asleep and had to catch the recap this morning because East Coast, man, the main card. Dude, you know what I do like about it, though? Those things move. Those fights move, bro. They were crazy. Yeah. They were crazy fights in Philly last night. Crazy fight.
Well, there was a crazy crowd there as well, to be fair. I think it was 19,000 people is what they said.
It was packed. That was legit sold out. Legit sold out. And
as you say, crazy action, crazy pace of fights, you know, because I wanted to watch, obviously, we spoke to Eddie recently. The man's a legend. I wanted to watch his. So I called the kids down, Callum and Lucas. I'm like, sit down and watch. And Callum looks online. He's like, Dad, there's 17 fights.
Yeah.
I'm like, I think we'll go through them pretty quick. And that was what we saw. Just fight after fight, knockout.
Brutal.
Yeah.
Brutal.
Yeah.
I can't believe some of these shots that guys got hit with last night. Because I've watched some bare knuckle, and you know it's got its place. It's not my favorite combat sport. Obviously, MMA is hands down, but I'm starting to like it more than watching boxing because it moves a lot quicker. It's violent. It's similar to MMA in the clinch that you can grab the head, that you can uppercut. They let you play there a little longer. Mm-hmm. That one kid got DQ'd. I don't know if you saw that one for like headbutting and throwing shots after the ref broke him up. It was wild. It was early. It was early in the night.
That must have been when we got our Thai takeaway, because we got a Thai takeaway and I was like laying a table because I leave for Saudi and stuff like that. It's my last dinner with the kids. I wanted it all night. So I was, playing that.
What's your go-to Thai?
I always get the cashew nut with chili chicken.
Oh,
cashew nuts, chili chicken. You know, it's a bit of a stir fry, but we get the crying tiger as well. Then we get a crab fried rice for the middle.
Oh yeah,
I love Thai food, man.
So do I. So do I. We get it all the time. Yeah, that's one of our favorite to order. Last night we did this like Detroit style deep dish type pizza. Oh, it was good. I'm going to finish that for the game today.
I have pizza Friday night, and then Paul just alluded there. We're recording this one early because I'm off to Saudi Arabia in, I don't know, I haven't got to watch on, but in a couple of hours I'm going. So I've been packing in the middle of the night, and then I go straight to Sydney, as I've said a million times already. If you were going to die, Paul, last meal, real quick, favorite food, not a meal, but what would your number one cuisine be? For me, it's Japanese, Thai, or just like a good old steak or barbecue.
Yeah.
All of it.
Me, a really good, not like a takeout, not a fast food burger, but a really good at like a steakhouse or just a really good pub that's known for their food and bar food, like that kind of burger with the really good fries where there's like maybe a little skin on them, but they're crispy and salty. That I say that's number one. Thai food probably number two, and then number three is same Japanese food, sushi, stuff like that.
So you have just endeared yourself to the common man. It's like I'm there giving it. Japanese guys, love a bit of raw fish. No steaks, dickhead. You're like, give me a burger, give me a hot dog.
But a like a conceited, hipster type burger, like fancy. A nice burger, cooked medium rare. I want it almost bleeding in the middle, like really good beef at a place that does them right. Like there's this place in Philly, Lloyd. It's got good whiskey, good old fashions, and then a really, really good burger. And they'll cook it properly too. They'll if you want it rare, I think sometimes you got to be careful because it'll come out like the middle will be barely even cooked through.
In the north of England and just the north of the UK in general, if the meat in the middle of a burger is a little reddish, they send it back. They think it's
terrible,
undercooked.
right?
Yeah. And I'm like, no, that's how it's supposed to be. You're supposed to have a little bit of pinkness in the middle. You know, that's what makes it taste good.
I can't stand an overcooked burger. It's like the worst.
My dad calls it BTF. You know, anytime you get a steak, he's like, how do you want it? He says, BTF, burnt to fuck.
Wow.
I'm like, Dad, you're wasting it. You're destroying it. Anyway, speaking of getting destroyed, I hate to bring it up, but Eddie Alvarez didn't get destroyed. I'll tell you what, Ben Rothwell destroyed his opponent. Did you see that one shot?
Yeah. Good for him, man. I do love seeing some of these guys that, you know, MMA, maybe it was getting away from them a little bit. They weren't having the success that they did earlier in their careers. And then they find that, you know, they find another sport and become champion, making good money still. And he basically got out of there with unscathed, right? I mean, knocked that guy out pretty quick. Brutal too. Yeah. There was other ones, brutal shots.
Measured with the left hand and boom, pretty much the first right hand that he threw. Put him out like a light. He's now the champ. Mark Hunt calling him out. So we might see that one in the future.
I'd love to see that.
But the main event, Eddie Alvarez, Jeremy Stephens, I thought, obviously we had Eddie on just recently. What a guy, just an awesome human being, great fighter, legendary career. Looked good to start, going to the body, nice jabs, really nice boxing technique. But of course, it only takes one good shot. And it was a right hand as they were separating a clinch from Jeremy Stephens, dropped him in round 2. Seemed to have his faculties about him. He stood up, he turned away, he took a mandatory 8 count. And then in round 3, when he got dropped, and I hesitate to say this, but he didn't want to, I think he said, they said, are you good? And I think he mouthed, I don't know. And then the round ended, he went back to his corner. And then whilst the camera was showing like the crowd and all the rest of it, then you heard in the background, the fight was off. So he obviously said something to his cornerman. And you know what? Respect to Eddie for having the balls to do that, because, and I'll let you jump in a second, you know, he's been the UFC champion. He's had a legendary career. He's 41 years old. As he alluded to us, he's getting paid very handsomely for this. You know, when you know you're beaten, you're damaged, you're discombobulated, you're dazed, all the rest of it, could he have come back and won? Yeah, maybe. Could he have gone out there, got knocked out unconscious, suffered a severe concussion, taken potentially years off his life? Yes, as well. And he was like, you know what? He's proud enough to say it's not about being a pussy. He stepped in there and he fought well. He said, you know what? I'm done. I'm done. And I think that takes a certain level of just self-realization, but also just you know, a certain amount of, this is a weird one, bravery to say, you know what? Fuck it. I'm done.
Yeah, especially at home. Especially Wells Fargo in Philly, the events around you, right? That's tough. But I think for Eddie, he's had a lot of eye trouble. He's had a lot of orbital issues in the past and broken bones in his face. And it looked like that was happening again. And I know with Mark Henry and the guys in his corner who are also well aware of all that, it happened in the Mike Perry fight where things puffed up and you couldn't see. And I think it was trending towards that if he ate another few shots. And the way Jeremy Stephens punches, you're not getting out of there without more damage, especially with what, two more rounds to go, or no, one more round to go. It was 2. It was going into the 4th, correct?
Yeah.
And I agree that if it's not going to get much better and you're risking never being able to fight again or having permanent damage done to yourself, especially after the career that he's already had and the damage that he's taken in several fights already, man.
Yeah.
You know, you got to say something instead of going out there and just. But there was a lot of people that got absolutely iced in that event. Did you see the kid from South Philly that came out with all the Irish garb and all that kind of stuff and got laid the out?
Yeah. I think I saw this is the guy who was on the weigh-ins. I don't know if you saw him there, and he was like, he was going crazy. So now all the memes are going around that he used all of his energy on the.
Oh my God, dude! It's one of the worst I've seen.
Yeah.
Look at this.
Oh yeah. He's toast. He's done. But, of course, Jeremy Stephens, fair play to the guy. Happy for him as well. Beautiful, well, you know, a good stoppage. Great boxing. And he proved, I'm the hardest hitting 145. Who's the guy that knocks people out? Right here. Because this one was doing the rounds. Who the fuck is that guy? Now, listen. I was playing it yesterday. It came up on my social media feed. That was a killer one by Conor McGregor. It really was. And then in the main event, Eddie Alvarez, listen, the man's an absolute legend for sure. He's had a great career. Went out there, looked good in the first round. He was landing some good jabs to the body, coming over the top with the right hand. But of course, Jeremy Stephens, as we know, is the hardest hitting 145er out there. Who's the guy that puts everyone to sleep? Oh. And there he is.
Man.
Great shot. Great shot. He took a standing eight. He took a standing 8 count in the second round, and then in the third round, right at the end, got dropped again. And I think I saw him mouth to the referee. I think he said, "Are you good? Are you good?" And I think he said, "I don't know." And then he went back to his corner and they called it off again. And and then after that, the corner announcer, the ring announcer said, "Yeah, the fight's done, the fight's over." And I think he went back to his corner and just said, "Yeah, look, listen, I'm not good. You're hurt, you're dazed, you're confused. He's a little discombobulated, he's out of it or whatever." And I think, to be honest, and a lot of people will disagree with this because they want to see their fighters be tough and go out there and risk it all. But Eddie Alvarez is 41 years old. He's been the UFC champion. He's still trying to make some money, and he showed up and he fought his ass off. But if you know that you're done, it takes a certain level of actual courage to say, "Do you know what? This isn't my night. I'm done." He could have gone out there in another round, and maybe he could have got it back, or maybe he could have got knocked unconscious, suffered a severe concussion, and who knows, have further problems down the line.
Yeah, 100%. And Eddie's had issues with those orbitals and getting broken bones in the face. And if you go out there, and it's not like it's MMA, Michael. It's not like you can go out there and he might be like, "All right, maybe I can wrestle for a little bit. I can stall for a little bit." There's no gloves on these guys. I mean, if you're talking damage to the face and broken things that are going to take long times, he's got kids to go back to. And you're right. That definitely takes guts, especially in Philadelphia at Wells Fargo Center. It's a sold out crowd that are there for you. I mean, those people were there to see Eddie Alvarez fight in that main event. That's tough. But he knows himself. Like you said, at 41 years old in the career that he's had, he knows if something isn't right, and we don't know, we might find out that there was some damage done and things that were broken in Eddie's face. And credit to him for that. And credit to the corner for maybe recognizing that. Maybe even Eddie was being a little vague about it, not wanting to quit, not wanting to be the guy to throw in the towel. But I know Mark Henry knows him well, and he was probably like, if you don't seem right, if you're not answering those questions right away with yes, no, I'm good to go, then it's time to go. It was an exciting fight. It was a good matchup, and it went pretty deep into the rounds. And then sometimes you just got to know when to back out.
Hey, listen, and he had a lot of support there. I think it was his wife, and I ain't talking shit about his wife, but
you can hear her.
Very vocal. You
can hear her. Oh yeah, man. Dude, every fight that Eddie has ever had, you can hear her wife. She is his biggest fan. She's his supporter. There's no doubt about it. Yeah. It's pretty funny to hear her because she could be 75. If he's still fighting and he's 70 some years old, you'd hear his wife screaming at the top of her lungs at every match he'll ever have.
Yeah, it was my son Callum said that's his wife screaming because I was like, have you heard this woman screaming? She's like, yeah, that's his wife. She's always there. Hey, and God bless her. God bless her. But fair play, we got to say, Jeremy Stephens, I mean, he did it. He got the job done. He knocked him out. And of course, now, who the fuck is that guy? He might be fighting Conor McGregor in bare knuckle. Of course, McGregor stepped into the ring and had a square up. I think we've got a little video of this one. Here he is here. McGregor steps in.
Who the fuck is this? Yeah, let's make a date. Let's set a date. Who's going to stop me man to man? No one's going to stop me. David, make the date. Let's do it. One down for the pro, yeah? One down for the pro. Let's go. Let's fucking do it. Hey, bleed, ladies and
there's a lot to unpack there, if you will. Of course, he's under contract with the UFC, but I'll say this, right? And, I've gone back and forth with McGregor over the years, as you have. So this is far from me being a McGregor nut hugger. If there's one person that knows how to keep himself relevant in the fight world without actually fighting, It's Conor McGregor. You know, he's linked up to fighting everyone left, right, and center. And if you want to talk about promoting bare knuckle, that's a stroke of genius, because you know today, tomorrow, all the headlines are going to be Conor McGregor versus Jeremy Stephens. Is it going to happen in bare knuckle? Now, the fight's never going to happen. That would be my guess. But the sideline of it all is that amongst all those headlines, bare knuckle FC is being promoted and talked about the entire time.
100%. 100%. And that, I think that even if Conor never fights anywhere ever again, I do think he's got a future doing this stuff as a promoter. I mean, he's got crazy energy, like you talked about. He's insanely popular. No matter what he does, we want to, people are tuning in, whether it's bad news, good news, fight news, outside of the fight news. If he's on a bus with Jake and Logan Paul, it doesn't matter. People are tuning in to find out what he's up to and what's going on. And he's invested into that company, and he is definitely pushing it. Now, he's just got to watch legal action at this point, right? Because he's talking about fights and announcing things whilst under contract with the biggest fight organization in the world, in the UFC. And that might get him in trouble. And that was what was funny, because David Feldman, who I've known for a long time, I fought on his shows in Philly.
Oh, really?
When he was doing like local regional MMA, man. So the fact that he has gotten to this point is crazy to see. He's got a crazy story too, David Feldman, and his background and all that. But he was just a local MMA promoter, and then he started getting into this bare knuckle stuff. And it seemed like a sideshow thing at first, but now they're getting legit names into the sport. They got Conor invested into this stuff. So it's pretty awesome to see that Dave Feldman, who was running MMA shows in Philly, is now running this massive bare knuckle. And I'll tell you, I watched the production stuff. They definitely had a lot of mess ups on the actual film, television stuff, like graphics were going out.
Diego. That's where Jeremy Stephens fights off. San Diego.
Yeah. So it like
a whale's vagina.
but it's entertaining. I mean, I can see this sport sticking around for a while, especially with the people they've got involved in it and the names of the fighters they've got. I think he should just stick to doing that and forget about fighting, man. At this point, it's pretty obvious that he's not committed to doing that. He's committed. He's committed to everybody all over. He wants these things, but you're not actually getting in there. So just promote this shit, push this shit, and make your money.
Well, David Feldman at the post-fight press conference actually made what appeared to be kind of like an official announcement. He said that Conor
very nervously.
Roll the tape on that one, please, Brian, because as you said, kind of nervously, because I don't know the legal ramifications of this, promoting another fight for somebody that's under contract, but let's have a listen.
Well, one more thing. As I was walking out of the arena, Conor actually tapped me on the shoulder, and he told me to make sure that I tell everybody that he's fighting Jeremy Stephens in BKFC. That's what he said. I don't know if it's happening. I'm telling you, Conor just told me that he's fighting Jeremy Stephens in bare knuckle.
As you say, he did it very kind of.
Conor told me. He tapped me on the shoulder.
A crazy echo, Brian. Conor told me. Conor told me to announce.
I don't want to get screwed. I don't want to get screwed.
Not my words, but
go after him. Go after him.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I don't think that fight's going to happen one little bit. No. But as I say, the side effects of that is that's getting promoted. You know what I mean? So, but it might cause there might be a couple of letters flying around at some point soon if he's not careful.
Yeah, I'm sure there was a few text messages at some point.
So well done to everyone that won there. Well done to Jeremy Stephens.
It was a bad night for Philly, by the way.
Was it?
There was a few wins. There was a few wins for the Philly guys, but there was quite a few guys that got. It's that hometown curse, and sometimes you think it's good, but there's a lot of pressure, and sometimes it doesn't go great when you fight in your hometown.
Let me just tell you, just allow me a second to blow my own horn. Never lost in the UK.
Yeah, you're a lucky one, man. That's good.
What a prank.
That's good. I never got to fight. I never got to fight for the UFC in Philly or in the area at all. I was always on the road. It sucked.
Yeah, no, but it did bring a lot of pressure. I was shitting my pants a lot of the
Oh
time.
my God. And
You
he's probably getting hit up nonstop too by every single person that you haven't talked to in, 20 years.
Oh yeah, no, for sure, for sure. In fact, that happens more these days. People that I haven't, they're like, very, very, I've met them once or twice, and maybe we
Yeah.
follow each other on social media. Oh, can you get me some tickets for this UFC event that's happening near me? Oh yeah, let me get right on that right now. That's top of my priorities. Did you happen to see any of the PFL? Did you see the main event?
I saw highlights of the main event. I heard there was a lot of controversy around who maybe the winner was of the main event. I heard it was really close, and a lot of people think that it should have gone the other way. But it seemed like there was a lot of mutual respect. Either way, Khabib and the guys were giving the other kid a lot of credit for that fight, man.
Yeah, so I can't pretend to be an expert on Paul Hughes. I've never watched him fight, but of course at the weekend there was no UFC action, so I checked it out and I watched it. And Usman Nurmagomedov, undefeated, of course, and the last name and the team and all the rest of it. Paul Hughes coming from Ireland, I thought, right, he's going to be the striker, the other guy's going to be the wrestler. That was essentially it. But Nurmagomedov came out, and then in the first round it was largely just all striking, with Nurmagomedov throwing a lot of kicks. Now I was doing a live stream on my YouTube channel at the same time. So I was looking here at the chat section, but I had the fights on there. So I was like doing this. So I wasn't like paying supreme attention, and I've only got one eye. So for a Cyclops, I was doing a pretty good job. I thought Nurmagomedov won the first round. It seemed to me from where I was watching that Paul Hughes won the second round. He was doing an amazing job of stopping the takedowns. His boxing was really good. He had really good, ringsmanship and ring craft. He was controlling the center, stopping the takedowns. But the output wasn't as much as I would have liked to have seen. Now, as the fight progressed, a point was deducted as well for Nurmagomedov for like numerous low blows. And then at that point, I thought, oh, well, Paul Hughes has won this. And then I was having a bit of banter with everyone in the chat and like just glancing over at the fight. So initially, I thought Paul Hughes had won it, and so do a lot of people online. But I won't go as far as to say that, because, when you're fighting, it's not fair to take away from somebody's hard work unless you've really watched it properly. I was keeping one eye. I was keeping half an eye on it. It seemed like Paul Hughes won, but there was a lot of control in the later rounds as well from the Nurmagomedov. But of course, everyone's coming out and calling me, he's such a walking piece of hate. He hates Muslims. He hates Dagestanis. He hates the Nurmagomedovs. I'm like, what are you talking about? Shut the fuck up.
Oh, man, you know how it is. You can't say anything without somebody being a hater. And a lot of times in these close fights, especially against Khabib and his guys, right? Even if it's a close fight, I feel like we want the other guy to win so bad to show that they're not as dominant as they are. But anytime it's that close, everyone wants to say robbery. It's like, if it's that close of a battle, it's never a robbery, right? Sometimes it's going to go the other way. Sometimes, these close fights, you're going to want your guy to have won. And it doesn't mean it's a robbery. It's a close fight. If it's a close fight, sometimes you got to deal with it. It sucks.
Yeah, exactly.
I've been on the other end of them, and I've gotten fights given to me that a lot of people are like, oh, it's a robbery. It's like, no, it's a close fight. Shut up.
Yeah. Yeah, so people were asking me about that, actually. What's one fight, Bisping, that you won, but you think you should have lost? And I was like, obviously being the narcissistic fighter that I am, I'm like, oh, no, that never happened. Maybe the Matt Hamill one, maybe. But other than that, I feel like I was robbed on the scorecards. Not robbed, again, that's a strong word. Unlucky that I didn't get the decision. What's a fight in your career, Paul, that I should have won that? I wasn't robbed, but you were unlucky.
For sure, the Dan Hooker fight. It was super close. I thought I did enough. A lot of people thought I did enough, but it was close, man. And I said that everyone's like, oh, it was a robbery. I'm like, it was not a robbery. It was a good, close fight. And I'm fighting him in Auckland. It's, that's how it's going to be sometimes. And it went my way in the second Edson fight. That was super close fight. I thought I won, but a lot of people thought that Edson won that one. So, I got that one. And then my next fight was the Hooker fight, and he got that one. So I really couldn't complain, you know?
Yeah.
It's just how it works. When you go to a judge's scorecard and it's close, you got to hope and pray.
Hey, that's just the way it goes. All right, today's episode is sponsored by Orgain, that are going to give you real delicious, tasty protein shakes if you've got a busy lifestyle. These things are definitely a must. Let me tell you, they taste delicious, they are nutritious, and they're going to give you 30 grams of protein. If you've got a busy lifestyle, you need to get some Orgain in the life. As I say, Orgain's new 30-gram complete protein shake offers protein-packed real nutrition designed to satisfy your cravings without any added sugar. Plus, they are an excellent source of premium ultra-filtered protein with 9 essential amino acids. Orgain's products are handcrafted with high-quality ingredients that make them taste just fantastic. You feel like you're sipping on a milkshake, but you're getting 30 grams of protein. You can fill your fridge with them, fill your car with them, have one in your pocket, have one in your bag. If you are a busy man or woman and you are on the go, Orgain is for you. As I said, all you do, just pop the cap off, down it goes. It satisfies your hunger, satisfies your cravings, helps you recover from your workout, and you are up and away doing whatever it is you need to do. Now remember, there is no quick fixes when it comes to your health. If you want more protein, give Orgain 30-gram protein shakes a try. Head over to Orgain.com/believe. Use the code BELIEVE for a gigantic 30% off your order. That is the best offer that you're going to find, but you have to use the code BELIEVE for 30% off. One last time, 30% off. Head to Orgain.com/believe. Use the code BELIEVE. These things are delicious. They are nutritious, and you will thank me later. Before we get into UFC Saudi Arabia, we're going to talk about that. We're going to break it down. We've got a few news stories as well. A lot of people were asking about Anthony Smith and what's happening with the podcast. So just real quick, I wish Anthony nothing but the best of luck. If people watch this show and you're a long-time believer, shall we say, then you know Anthony was great on the show. We had some amazing conversations and I really enjoyed them. But with his schedule, with fighting and working ESPN and stuff, he wasn't here some of the time, you know, and other times I would have to get you to fill in. And then, you know, he went through a tough time. He lost a friend and a coach, and then he lost his fight, and we were just waiting for him. We were leaving him to it because that would usually be the process. If he lost a fight, he would take a week or two off and stuff like that. And we just never heard from him, you know, and then obviously I would have you filling in. And then all of a sudden we just saw that he was doing his own podcast somewhere else. So that's it. That's the story. There's no big fallout. There's no drama. There's no beef. I wish him nothing but the best. And I truly mean that. You know, I was a little bit shocked when I just was scrolling YouTube one day and I saw the On Paper podcast, but God bless him. Good for him. I wish him nothing but the best. So there it is. There's your fucking drama, guys. Because I know it was, oh, what happened? What happened? Nothing. I know. Literally from my side, fuck all. I'm like, where is he? That's about it.
Yeah, I mean, I was reading a lot of the comments too, and people definitely were making it out to be a lot more dramatic than it needed to be. You know, he's got his own thing going on, and he you know, he's our dude. I was just filling in for a while, and then weeks turned into like over a month, and we hadn't heard much. So yeah, I mean, I told you from the beginning, I'm always willing to jump on here. I think the fans are great, and you've already got such an established podcast. It was a no-brainer for me to want to fill in here and jump in. So glad to be a part of it, man.
Well, welcome to the team. Brian, can you do me a favor, mate? I never sent a link for this, but I don't know if you saw. Did you see the announcement from the GFL? There's a video, Brian, if you can look it up, where they're all getting the announcement. I'm sorry, it's a bit of a vague request. They're all walking out. They
I saw
like
this yesterday. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. They look. I'm not shitting on them, and I wish them the best of luck. Do you know what I mean? they're dressed up like Power Rangers, right? They're dressed up like Power Rangers, or like they're about to go to war with Transformers.
Oh yeah.
Look, Verdun.
Oh man.
Leather clad. Oh dear. Can we play the rap song, Brian?
I'll try. We might get big for it. But
No, there's no way that song's copyright.
I'm haunted by a mountainous silhouette lurking under my skin. Constricting my reason, it's fiending to break out into carnage. I harness the havoc so I don't slip into sin.
Faber.
But the appetite
Tarantula.
I practice the path of discipline. Each elbow's a
Oh,
prayer,
dear,
every
that
knuckle's
takes
a vow.
that
Keep darkness in captivity.
I mean, look, hey, listen. Cool, sure. Cringe a little bit.
Big time cringe, Michael. Big time cringe. Not cool. Not cool.
I saw it and I'm like, what's going on? And then Rebecca was like, it looks like AI. They've definitely, it's not AI. I think they did actually have to clad those suits, shall we say, and get all superhero-ish. And
They better save some money for the fighters that they're apparently paying. I mean, it looks like some...
there was a few wrinkles smoothed out. They definitely Instagrammed the shit out of those faces. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because they're all like 40 plus.
And they get, well, in fact here, and oh God, this is bad. It's like I'm trying to talk shit, and I'm not talking shit.
Listen, I'm all about these promotions and getting fighters more opportunities. Even though I'm with the UFC, I have no problem with that. But try to catch some of the young blood, man. Like, that's what I love about what the UFC does with the Contender, with the Ultimate Fighter. The UFC doesn't want the older they want the new, they want the young guys that are coming in the sport. Like any other professional sport that's big in the world, you eventually have served your time, and fighting for some reason, just guys stick around, and now they get this opportunity, and good for them. No problem against that. But every one of them used to be a UFC fighter, and so they're not for a reason anymore.
Devil's avocado. Okay. And the devil's avocado came from my son, Callum. We do a little mini podcast for my membership program on my YouTube channel. And we were doing this. We were talking about it yesterday. And I was saying the same thing. I was like, Jesus Christ, And Callum was like, no, I'm excited to see these guys, Dad. I said, well, yeah, of course. They're all old UFC talent. They were all fan favorites for a reason. Tony Ferguson, Tyrone Woodley, all the list goes on. Vanderlei Silva's involved, etc., etc. Yeah. Right. And he's like, Dad, I don't want to see a promotion with a bunch of names of people that I don't know. He said, so they're going to use these guys to bring eyeballs and at the same time nurture and foster their own talent. And I was like, do you know what? To be honest, Callum, that's actually not a bad take. Use them initially to get some attraction, get some eyeballs and some attention, and then try and foster their own talent if that's what they do. However, going back to the age thing, I've got some stats. You want some stats?
Oh, yes, I do. What's the average age?
Average age of the GFL roster. What's your guess?
38.
Brian, what's your guess as well? Jump on. The average age of the GFL roster is 35.7 years old. Okay. The oldest team. I've got some more questions for you, Brian. Hold on. The oldest team is Team Miami with an average age of 37 or 36.7. All right. What percentage of the roster do you think is 40 years or older?
40%.
Yeah. 50.
All right. 26% of the roster is over 40. Percentage of the roster that is 35 years or older, bearing in mind, 35, that's the big curse, when people start to slide off. Percentage of the roster over 35.
Brian, you go.
Let's go with that with 40%.
50.
Hold on, where'd it go? 61%.
Wow.
Again, I'm not talking shit. I wish him all the best of luck. A number of fighters, 29 years or younger. I'll just tell you, 12% of the roster.
Do you want to see something crazy I just saw on Twitter about this? Apparently, Rashad Evans got drafted, and he has no idea about it.
Oh, whoa. What do you mean? What's it say?
So, Rampage posted, I don't know how Rashad is on here when I'm scheduled to beat his ass in April. And then he responds to this by saying, I'm not. Let me be clear. The only commitment I have is to lay your ass out in April. I was added to this without my consent.
Oh. Wow. Because I did hear something about that, but I didn't know any evidence or facts or anything like that. Callum mentioned it yesterday.
Interesting.
So that's a great example. I mean, it's kind of embarrassing when Rashad's coming out. And I'm not trying to shit on the GFL or the Grandpa Fight League, as people are calling it online. They are. I hope they all get paid. I hope they make a ton of money. You know what I mean?
Me too, man. I'm with you. And I agree with your son, too, that if it is, in fact, used in that way to then foster and bring up new talent, great. But we don't know that. We don't know that yet. So we'll see. But if they do that, then yes, smart strategy there. But let's see how long it can last, because obviously a lot of those people are going there because they think they're getting paid pretty well. It sounds like a lot of money. There's a lot of big names and a lot of guys that were making a lot of money before they left the bigger organization. So I just wonder where the bankroll's coming from.
Before we get into UFC Saudi, do you want, should we do some MMA news stories? I've got a couple here. Mike Harrington's not here, but my God, I've assembled some great ones. No, Renato Moicano made over $900,000 in his losing effort to Islam Makhachev.
That's a big payday, man. That's a big payday, and he deserved it. You step in on short notice for a title fight like that. Money Moicano is making money, and he's still going to be relevant. You know, he's made it clear that that's what he's mainly in it for, right? Is to make those big paydays, and that's exactly what he did. And I'm still excited to see him fight. You lose to Makhachev, it's like, okay, the dude's an absolute savage. He's in his absolute prime in the UFC right now. He's looking unstoppable. It didn't go your way. I hope he gets a fun fight after that. I mean, he's on damage from that. He got choked. He can bounce right back as soon as he wants to, honestly.
It's a crazy shout, but I'd put him in there with Paddy Pimblett, which is only round the corner. It's March 22nd. But he went out there. He had a full training camp. He didn't get injured. He got choked out, just like what happens in any practice. You know what I mean? You go up against someone good at jiu-jitsu, you get caught in a submission. There's no injuries. There's no nothing. He's back doing his podcast straight away. Put him in there against Paddy Pimblett. He's been talking shit. Paddy was talking some shit as we talked about. It's a quick turnaround for sure, but it's a big fight. Now, in terms of, all right, he didn't lose anything, I have a slightly different take because he got his title fight. He had his title fight and he lost. And title fights are very, very hard to come by. You know, some people, all right, if your name is Uriah Faber, you get a lot of title shots. I used to call him Uriah Faber because I was trying to get a title fight off Dana all the time. I'm like, come on. And I'm like, oh, fucking Uriah Faber on his 17th title shot again. Fucking hell. But as in Uriah Faber and the Munchkin crew, Dana just said a laughing emoji. But the problem is, he's going to struggle getting another title fight, and he's at the end of his career. Well, he's not at the end, but I think he's 35-ish, maybe even 36. You know, he was on a good little roll. He had some momentum. It's going to be a hard sell. So in that regard, you know, it's a tough one, but he got compensated really well.
Yeah, you're right. He probably lost the ability to get back there realistically, especially with the landscape of the division itself. But he just needs to pivot. He needs to make a decision. Is that what he wants? Does he really want to try to claw his way back to a title shot? Or does he just want to now you've got the bank account, you've got good money, you've got yourself a name. Just find fun fights. Go fight Paddy. Go do this. Go fight the guys that are going to bring action, that you're going to be able to get main events or co-main events or be in a good spot on a pay-per-view and just continue your career into the end. And, you know, maybe you don't get that belt, but you end up walking away and being able to take care of your family and being proud of the career that you had. So, but you are right. I mean, you definitely lose in the fact that you're realistically at the age he's at, coming off that loss, there's a lot of other guys that are going to be going in front of him. But
yeah, I mean, Moicano's number 10. It's nice. Moicano's number 10. Paddy's number 12. Yeah, it's fighting back. But that's a fight that needs to happen, you know, and I think both guys would gain a lot from that. And outside of that, I don't know who Paddy's going to fight. I mean, they're obviously going to announce it soon because March is around the corner. Brian McKay's right.
So on what you were saying before about Uriah Faber and Renato maybe not getting back to a title shot, it's funny here because it says that he claims that the pay-per-view sold more after Arman bumped out and he went in. So Dana likes fucking money, man. You know what I mean? If Renato's a pay-per-view star and we didn't know about it until just now, He might
Hey.
get the Uriah Faber treatment.
But that's, and I don't think it's the Uriah Faber treatment, but just the division at the time. But that's a really good point, Brian. It's a really good point, and it shows that people were interested. Now, I do think, because I did feel a little excitement. I'm like, oh, well, listen, I was excited for Rozenstruik, of course, but when it switched to Moicano, all the drama, a mix-up, it's like, whoa, it gives you a jolt of adrenaline. So maybe it was a bit of that. But also, people do love Moicano. I mean, he's become a great character in the sport. So maybe that's a good point. But as I say, I say Paddy Pimblett, that fight needs to happen. Now, speaking of title fights, Brian, there's a little video in the notes of Corey Sandhagen. Corey Sandhagen, obviously Sean O'Malley. He's talking about fighting Marabdashvili and getting a rematch. Aljamain Sterling came out recently and said that would be a hard sell. He would do nothing different. And Corey Sandhagen came out and he had this to say.
Hey, let's be real. O'Malley has no business fighting Marab for an immediate rematch. He got beat up in the first fight. He's going to get beat up in the second fight. No one wants to see that fight. I'm not booked yet. I want to fight. I am so damn bored. I'll even give this fool as much time as he wants, the way that Aljamain gave him as much time as he wants. Just UFC. Make the fight that the fans want to see, which is me and O'Malley. Make it happen soon. I'm so fucking bored. Hey.
Hey, fair play. I like this side of Corey Sandhagen.
Yeah. Go and I think I've said that I'd love to see that fight before. That fight would be extremely exciting. And Corey's just sitting around waiting. Make that happen. And I agree with Corey that I don't think that fight makes sense for him to get a rematch with Marab. I think he needs to fight somebody else and prove himself again. And that fight is fun. It's another tall, rangy striker who brings the action every time he's in there. Make it happen. It makes sense. Sean needs to fight somebody, man. You can't just, these guys, they get to the peak, they get to the belt, and they sit around and it's like they just want to get right back there. And it's like, it just doesn't work like that, especially in a division. When you're in a division that's filled with studs and people that can be the next in line, it's hard to get right back in there.
Yeah, and that's exactly what Sean Strickland tried to do. Remember when he fought Dricus and lost to him the first time? And of course, he ended up fighting Paulo Costa. Listen, for Marabdashvili, another rematch with Sean O'Malley would be great for him because he'd make money because Sean O'Malley is a draw. But that is a logical matchup. If Corey Sandhagen isn't booked, there it is. I mean, Sean O'Malley's still number one. Corey Sandhagen's number 4. Marab's the champ. There's your number 1 contender matchup all day long. May the best man win, and that's Marab's next fight. That makes all the sense in the world.
It makes all the sense because right now there is no clear cut, right? Marab has kind of beaten everybody. Umar was okay, this guy, this is the guy. And he got through him. And now it's like, well, then who's really next? He hasn't fought Corey, right? So if Corey goes and beats Sean, then it's like, okay, now we got fresh blood. It makes sense. He becomes the number 1 contender. I agree 100%. Make that fight happen.
So I'm off to Saudi shortly. After that, I fly down to Sydney. Volkanovski will not be fighting in Sydney at UFC 312. Brian, there's a little video in there of Volkanovski saying, though, that he's coming back and he's training for a fight in April. And all signs are pointing to potentially a rematch with Ilia Topuria.
Future, when are you hoping to get back into the octagon?
Yeah, so like I said, nothing's completely locked in.
He really doesn't. He knows. I can see that. Look in his eyes.
Well, the thing is, yeah, like, mate, like, because I was talking there, be ready for, March, April. So, like, when they're saying that, they don't have an exact date. But, I mean, I'd say in a couple of months, a few months. So, I think the April date does look good, but, you never know.
Paul?
Yeah, it sounds like he knows something that he can't quite say yet because it's not officially signed. But I mean, that was what we were waiting to see, right? I mean, that's what everybody was saying, that he deserved to get another shot at Ilia. And where is that April? Where would that April one be? Is that Miami? Is that where they're talking about?
Miami, I believe.
Come on, man. That especially for Ilia, that seems to just make sense to have those two fight there. That would sell that thing. So that's a pay-per-view in Miami then in April?
Yeah. I think so.
Awesome.
I think so.
That'd be awesome.
And it's
probably tough getting Ilia. It's probably tough getting Ilia because he's trying to get all these super fights, but that's probably the thing that's slowing this down a little bit is getting Ilia to agree to take that fight. But he's got it. Come on.
Well, Volkanovski always said, because I spoke to him a couple of times, did a couple of interviews and whatnot, and he said it publicly many times. His next fight It's for the
For the
belt.
belt. Yeah.
It's simple as that. I'm not taking on anybody else. So, I mean, so make of that what you will. It sounds like him versus Ilya is going to go down. And I've said in the past that I don't know if that's the best move. Maybe you need to come back and get another one before you fight Ilya. But then in hindsight, the man's not getting any younger. He was 35 last Feb. That means, if my math is correct, he's 36 now. Yeah. So don't waste another fight. He's been out for a year, you know, in terms of concussion protocols and all the rest of it. He's had a year out. He hasn't taken any damage. Let's see once and for all, can he get him done? Can he beat him, you know, without just getting knocked out against Islam Makhachev, you know? And I wish him nothing but the best of luck.
Yeah, absolutely. And Volk's got such a bright future even after he's done. He's such an awesome guy. He's so entertaining. Have you ever watched any of the Cooking with Volk and all that kind of stuff? And when he's dressing up as the old man and doing all that, we got to get this guy on TV more. That's something I would love to see for Volk too, is doing some sort of broadcasting, having his own show. He's so awesome to watch. He's so hilarious. And the man can cook too. He should have his own damn cooking show. I swear to God, I'm sure he could get something set up like that in Australia. He could probably be making a lot of money being on TV. I'm sure he's a megastar, obviously, down there. And just the way he handles the camera and hangs out and just is so good at being himself and genuine. But I agree. He's not getting younger. He doesn't want to just climb his way back up. He's got one more shot at it. And then I don't know where he goes from there. I don't know how much more Volk should fight if he loses another shot at the title. But if he goes and wins, then it's like, okay, you know, you get a couple more years of trying to defend the belt and sticking around, making a ton of money. I think that's the move. I think that's exactly what he should do. And that's what he deserves. He was a dominant champion for so long and people love him. So I hope that's the case. And I hope it works out. Knock on wood. Cause I would absolutely love to see that fight. I love both guys. I love Ilya Topuria too, but Ilya's got to defend that belt. I think the super fights will come in the future if you can go and defend the featherweight belt at least once more.
Off the top of my head, I don't know how many times Volk defended the belt, but it was a good few times, and he had the super fights against Islam as well, 2 of those. So he's made millions and millions and millions of dollars. Okay, so he can retire anytime he wants, but that fighter in him wants to reclaim the belt. I respect that. I say if he loses, then retire. And as you mentioned, there's going to be a ton of opportunities for him. He's so media savvy. And you know what I like about Volk? He's so authentic. He's just, and this is Australian people in general. The Aussies are some of the best people on planet Earth. They're so laid back. They're so down to earth. They're just chill. They're funny. They've got a great sense of humor. They love a good beer. They love some barbecue. They just love a nice, simple life. And Volk is like, he just embodies all of that. You know, when you hang out with him, I was with him in Manchester, just having a couple of, I walked into a pub with my old mate Daz. We walked into a pub. There's Volk, you know, and a couple of his mates, just having a beer, hanging out with the locals. Hi, mate, how you doing? So we had a couple, you know, he's the absolute man. Before we get into UFC Saudi, I think I got one more in here. Oh, yeah. Is it worth talking about? Jiri Prochazka. He went on the Joe Rogan podcast. And Jiri Prochazka, by the way, he had to clarify with the Schmo. I don't know if you saw. Brian, see if you can find that clip. It's hilarious. Brian, see if you can find the clip of Jiri speaking to the Schmo. Because as we know, he spoke to Megan Levy and said he was
got a couple of crazy guys coming back to the hotel.
We talked about this last week, but he clarified his statements with the Schmo.
Man, I'm like you said, straight man.
You like the females.
This is what I want to say, man. I just want to say that 2 my friends came from Czech Republic, from my childhood, what I know from my childhood, and every time we celebrating like very wild, like, you know, everybody's party is look like something, but we are really again, you see, again, it sounds weird. So no, it doesn't matter for me.
Listen, the Schmo saw you macking on a chick. We got you, man. We got you. We know you're a straight shooter.
Yes, I am.
Oh, hey, good job to Schmo there, to be fair. Yuri's the fucking man. He's the man. Oh,
it just gets lost in translation. Like all he's trying to say, and I figured this was, I'm going to go party hard with my friends. Like I'm going to bring them back to the hotel. We're going to go party. I'm going to show them something. I'm going to show them a good time. But
he's just trying to clarify he's not gay. He's not gay. You know?
I'm not showing them anything else. I'm going to show them a good time. Oh, he is the best. I'm so mad that I picked against him, and I just regret it, Michael.
Shame on you, Paul. He's going to see that episode.
Jamal's my guy too. I've had a lot of conversations with Jamal, and I've gotten to train with him, so I thought he'd get it done, and I still think he could have. And you know what? At the end of the day, it was an amazing fight, and Jiri, he is the man. I mean, he is the man. I'd like Jiri to show me something. I'm not gay, but I'd like him to show me something.
I'll show you something if you want, Paul. We're off down to Saudi Arabia.
Not in Saudi, Michael. No. Come on now. We're going to get stopped in the airport now.
Jesus Christ. Oh, my God.
You guys want me to wait to air this until you get back?
Yeah. We might have to postpone this one.
Yeah. No, but he was on Joe Rogan's podcast. Brian, play this clip, please. He was on Rogan's podcast, and he overdid it in the sauna by just a cheeky 5 pounds.
You weighed 208 pounds.
You don't know.
When you walked into the cage.
I thought I will do my best when I will go to the sauna night before the weigh-in and spend there. And again, I switched myself in the sauna, and I was there like for 2 hours.
Oh no!
The fun is, the second day after that, and I didn't drink anything after the sauna. And next day morning, I went to the control weight, and then I have, I don't know how it is in the libras, 91 kilograms. I'm fighting in 93 and half, and I was 2.5 kilogram under my weight.
So it's like 200 pounds.
So I was the only one guy who was in the row to the weight.
Thanks, Brian. That'll do, mate. He's out of his goddamn mind.
This is where him being too crazy, he got so focused and mentally tough in the sauna, just sitting in there forever, sucking himself out and getting all skinny. Yeah, breathing and screaming inside of the sauna, and he ends up coming in at 200 pounds.
2 hours in the sauna. So Rebecca and I'm dragging her to the gym now. She's working out 4 days a week with me. I'm doing 5. Wow. Maybe that's why my neck is going backwards. But her favorite part is we go in the sauna afterwards, and she has these, little meditation music that she sits there and she zens out. She's always giving me shit because I'm in the sauna and I'm stretching and I'm doing this, and she's like, "Sit down, relax." I'm like, no, it's hot in here. So therefore my muscles are a little bit more malleable. I can stretch a bit further and stuff like that. But then I start freaking out, start getting too hot. I've got to get out. We're doing 20 minutes now. But when it gets to like 17 minutes, I can't wait to get out. 2 hours. 2 hours is insane.
Yeah, that's a long time. I think the longest I would do when I was cutting weight would be like 45 minutes at the absolute most if I had a ton of weight to cut. And I'm the same as you. I'd just be in there and I'm waiting for the sweat to break. When you first get in, especially when you're cutting, you're so dehydrated. It takes a while to get the sweat going. And I'd just be in there. I'd be trying to like scrape whatever was on me with like the room key, and it's nothing's coming out.
I was just going to bring that up. When I first started coming over to America, because I never cut weight at light heavyweight, and it was when I lost to Rashad Evans again, a razor close split decision. They could have gone either way, but it was
a robbery.
He got me at the end with a takedown, but I remember I lost that fight, and then afterwards I was like, well, Rashad Evans was in a sauna killing himself, trying to make 205, and I was having noodles and drinking 7-Up the morning of the weigh-in. So I dropped down to 185. But when I started doing it and I'd sit in the saunas, I would see all the coaches, the fight would be sitting there, and the coaches would have the credit cards or the rookies just like elegantly scraping the water. And I'm like, I'm cutting weight these days. But if one of my coaches starts scraping me down with a hotel room key, we're going to have an issue, okay? Keep your hands to yourself when I'm cutting weight, please. I never saw the need for that. You're sweating anyway.
Yeah. So the reasoning behind it, from what I remember, is that when we sweat, the sweat is you're trying to cool your body, and if you get rid of it, But I used to do it myself. I would just sit there and do it myself.
I've got a quick story about going to the gym recently in the saunas. So I came out in 2008 and I did a training camp. And a fighter that fought in the UFC that shall remain nameless, he took me to have 1 day training with some guy, right? Some crazy Russian coach, right? And he was out of his mind. Never seen him since 2008. That's a long time ago. I'm in the gym and he's in the gym and he comes over all aggressive. Hey, remember, I train you. I'm like, excuse me? Yes, I train you, remember? And anyway, after a bit, I'm like, oh my God, yeah, you're that. I'm like, oh, hey, how you doing? And he's like, take my number. And I'm like, I'm okay.
Sure.
He said, no, you come here to the gym by yourself? I'll train you. I said, I don't need that, thanks. I'm good. So anyway, he forces me to take his number. And I'm like, what was your name again? And then he shouts his name at me, all aggressive, because I'd forgotten his name. And I was like, F this guy, you know what I mean? So now I keep seeing him at the gym and he's a big, older dude, Russian dude. And he's flexing. Do you know what I mean? Like he walks past me and doesn't get out of the way. He comes into the sauna. When I'm in the sauna, he walks in and he plays some crazy Russian music in a public sauna, full max on his phone, right? On YouTube, and it even goes to ads. And nobody wants to hear the ads on YouTube. And there's it's a big sauna at the gym. So there's 6 or 7 people in there. Everyone's zoning out. And this prick is blasting his music with YouTube ads out of his phone. Now, I've wanted to say, excuse me, what are you doing? But I know what's going to happen. If I say it, there's going to be a confrontation. So I'm biting my tongue, right? But what would you do in that situation, Paul? Because I'm going to end up strangling this guy.
Yeah, I'd have been in the same thing. I'd have just sitting there pissed off out of my mind inside, calmly just stewing inside. But it's the same thing. It's like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? You're going to bitch at the guy and then you're going to end up having a conversation and an argument anyway. So maybe, and you don't want to be the guy's like, all right, well, I'll go tell the front that this guy is in here blasting music. And then you feel like Rebecca that guy.
Said. Rebecca said, well, why don't you go tell the front guys?
I don't want to be that guy.
I'm not a snitch. I'm not a telltale. Excuse me. There's a guy in the sauna playing his music and it's really distracting when I'm trying to relax.
Yeah. We've even been having I've been having an argument with my older daughter because she told on a couple kids recently in school. And I'm like, babe, I was like, don't be a snitch. Don't. And I keep joking with her. I'm like, snitches get stitches, babe. You don't want to be known as the kid that's the tattletale. I was like, if somebody's doing something mean and aggressive and dangerous or inappropriate, yeah, sure, you go tell the teacher. I was like, I'm trying to teach her. It's like, that's the difference. Like I grew up in South Philly in a rough neighborhood. She's growing up in the suburbs in a private school out here. It's a very different situation. So I'm trying to bring a little of the hood that I grew up in to my daughter. I'm like, you want to be a little street smart. You want to be a little bit aware of that kind of stuff. So I'm the same as you. I wouldn't want to be the guy. I'd want to, because I didn't want to hear it anymore. But yeah, I'd be the same way.
It is a tricky one, isn't it? Because we want the best for our kids and we want the best environment. And that's why I'm living in Orange County, California, in a nice, peaceful suburb. We got some nice nature and all the rest of it. But it does raise very soft people. Do you know what I mean? No, I'm not exactly from the ghetto. You're from Philadelphia, for crying out loud. I'm from a lovely, quaint town in England, but it was a very working class town and people just drank, got drunk, had a lot of fights. You know what I mean? There was a lot of other stuff went on as well. It's not like there was no crime, but there was no gangs or anything like that. However, it's like you don't want to raise pussies. You got to know how to be able to defend yourself. So that's why they all do martial arts. But I'm proud that Callum's never had a street fight. Well, saying that, some guys attacked him. 4 dudes attacked him in an elevator once, jumped him. He turned around, he punched one of them in the face, body shotted another one, picked one up, slammed him on his head. He took care of them, and that's not bullshit because he called me up. He's like, Dad. I'm like, what's going on? Anyway, so I was proud of him for that. But outside of that, he's never had any street fights, which is great. But you've got to be street smart. You can't be walking around thinking that you're living in some bubble-wrapped world where nothing bad's going to happen.
Yeah, because then you're not going to recognize when you are in those situations, right? Let's say you're off at school, you're visiting some other city, and you end up in a bad part. Like, you've got to know when to have your head down, when to keep your head up and be aware and kind of blend in and things like that. And I feel like that's what we want to teach our kids. I'm the same as I don't want them to go get into a fight. And it's a different world too, right? Like if a kid now, if I tell my daughter, oh, somebody's doing something to you and pissing you off, punch them in the face. Well, there you go. We're looking for a new school. That's where it's at now. Whereas, you know, in the 90s, it was a little different. Now you do that and you're going to get kicked out of school just first time offender.
There was a thing with Bill Burr. I just saw like a little clip recently, and he was talking about growing up in the 80s, in the 70s and 80s, you know, and how, you know, if your teacher hit you at school, it was like, well, what did you do? They didn't do it for nothing. And like your friends' kids could hit you. Do you know what I mean? Like, which I've had some of my friends, their dad give me a clip around the ear. I'm not talking about anything severe, but you know, you cheeky little bastard. And
like, what are you doing?
Yeah. It's like, well, you must have done something to deserve it. These days,
dude, I got a story.
Please.
I'm maybe like 12 or 13. And maybe 13. I think I was a freshman in high school. And there was this guy that lived on our street in Grace Ferry, which is the neighborhood in South Philly that I grew up in. And he was a dick. And his car was parked right by my house. And he had done something recently to piss us off. Or, so, you know, I forget what it was. He was a neighbor right down the street. So I'm a little punk kid and I spit on his car, right? Yeah, I'm going to show this guy. Well, he sees me do it. And he comes out, you little piece of shit, grabs me, comes over, smacks me as hard as he can across the face, brings me over to the car and makes me wipe off the spit with my jacket or whatever I had on. So, I mean, I got like a handprint on my face. I'm all upset. I go back. My mom's like, what's wrong? What happened? I tell her, you know, so-and-so just smacked me in the face. She's like, what? She grabs me. He comes out. She's like, okay, watch this. Now, I shouldn't even be telling this, but my mom grabs her keys, walks to the car, and he had like a nice car on the street, and just walks alongside of it and just along the whole side of his car and keys his car.
I love your mom.
My mom was another time. I'm going to get a candy bar at Rite Aid, a pharmacy around the corner. And it was kind of right where my neighborhood got a little rough. And, there'd be some tension that would go on. Kids from that side would mess with us and vice versa, right? But I wasn't necessarily a troublemaker. I got a candy bar. I'm walking and the kid's walking behind me. And I know, I'm like, oh, fuck. This kid he's going to steal my candy bar. So he comes up behind, just right from behind, smashes me in the face, takes my candy bar. I run back. I'm crying. I'm younger than that at this point. My mom's like, what happened? I'm like, he punched me and took my candy bar. She's like, did you fight him? I'm like, no. And I'm, all upset. Hadn't started martial arts yet. She brings me around the corner back to where this kid was. And she finds him. And she's like, yo, did you hit my son? And he's like, yeah. She's like, did you sneak him? Like you just snuck him? You didn't. She's like, well, why don't you fight him right now? Fair and square. The kid's older than me, bigger than me. My mom makes me have a dust up with this kid. We fight. I don't win. Breaks it up. She's like, all right, next time you fight him like a man, face to face. And I come back. She's like, you don't ever take shit from anybody that tries to fight you like that.
You know what?
And here I am today, a former retired fighter, and you wonder why.
Yeah, but your mum sounds like a special lady because that's a really, really good lesson. It's not being reckless or anything like that, but you got to stand up for yourself.
Never start it. My mom is a sweetheart. She is the nicest lady. But if you piss her off or you try to confront her, she taught me all that.
Because bullies are looking for easy targets. Yeah. They're not looking, any teenagers listening, this doesn't apply to grown men. But if you're a kid and and you're getting a bit of shit, if you fight back a little bit, they're like, I'll leave them alone.
They'll stop.
They don't want to roll around on the floor and get into an actual scrap. They're like, oh shit, he's a feisty one, this guy.
Yeah. I'm gonna find a new target. They're gonna find an easier target. You're right.
The mums are great though. My mum was a flipping savage, man. She's like a sweet old Irish lady, and she can't talk, and she's like, butter wouldn't melt in her mouth. But she was a psycho, man. I remember a couple of times the cops coming round to the house to arrest me when I was a kid, and they wouldn't tell me what it was about. And my mum comes downstairs in the nightie and she has the limp and she's got the fucking rolling pin and she's like, what is going on? And they're like, you're not saying, he's my son and you will not take him out of this house without me authority. And if you don't tell me what happened, and they're like, okay, it involved an incident, and I'm like, oh shit. Like, nice
I
one,
remember
Mom.
that.
I can get my shit together. It was just like a little scrap in the pub or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, oh yeah, she was a feisty one.
Yeah.
My dad was the same though, and I love my dad, of course. And shout out Jan Bisping. If there was ever any fights when I was a kid, as long as I won, that's all that mattered.
You weren't in trouble.
I was never in trouble. Did you win? If I didn't win the fight, then I'd probably get a hiding from him. But if I won, that was all that mattered to him.
Yeah. And you became a UFC champion, Michael. So I
There
mean,
you go.
There
Let's
you go.
Jan Bisping. All right, UFC Saudi. I got to get on a plane soon. Let's have a look at this fight card. I do have it up here somewhere. Oh, I did have it. But we do know the main event is Israel Adesanya taking on Nasruddin Imavov. Now, hold on. I do have a little something to read here. Here's what Izzy had to say. He said, for me, it's about proving to myself that I'm still that dude. I know I'm one of the best, if not the best. I still feel like I'm improving, and I see the work that I do. I feel the work that I do, and I just want to show the world the work that I'm doing. Then he went on to say, I don't know about all these other fights in the month of February, but yeah, exciting times at 185, to be honest. But 185 pounds, the middleweight division, feels boring without me. So I'm going to make it interesting. What do you think of that statement?
I like it. I like hearing that he's still hungry, right? Because when you take some losses and you were at the top of the division for as long as he was, motivation can start lacking, right? You can start doubting yourself and not be as hungry because you're not the champion anymore and you're trying to get yourself back there. So I like to hear that from Izzy. And I agree. Like, I want to have him be at the top of this division. He is exciting. He's a fun character to have in the middleweight division. And I love this fight. I think this stylistically could be a real interesting matchup. It's going to be a challenge, though, because Nasruddin is so fast and so sharp with his striking. But, man, I want to see Israel back at the top. I think he's right in the fact that we kind of need him, right, to sell these fights. If he can get back into the mix with Strickland and Duplessis, these are fights that we want to see, especially if we can show some improvements, if he can show that he's really been working on some new things, because he's got such a unique style as a kickboxer, but guys have been watching it for so long now. It seems like they're just kind of figuring it out a little bit, but he's had some time off to really work on his game. I'm curious to see, and I'll be there to see it, calling it. So I want to see what he brings to the table.
The reality is he's lost 3 out of his last 4, though. Which is a crazy thing to say for Israel Adesanya, that came in undefeated, became the champion, defended 4 times, fought for a second belt, knocked out Alex Pereira, only person to do that. So he's done incredible things, but now he's lost 3 out of 4. Now, granted, that is to Israel Adesanya, that is to Strickland, that's to Dricus Duplessis. So there's no shame in that. However, if you're looking at it, the timeline, you're seeing a bit of a pattern recently. The question is he starting to fall off? Is he starting to age? Has he come down from the peak? Is he on the verge, if he loses this fight, is he on the verge of being the gatekeeper?
Yeah. I mean, I think he is if he loses this one. If it would be 3 in a row if he loses this one?
Yeah.
I think that's where, and even now, the thing about a gatekeeper is, right, you can be it for a little while, and then if you win those fights and you get yourself back into the top, it's fine. Because obviously he is a gatekeeper for Nasruddin Imavov right now. And this is a guy that's been calling for the next shot at this title for a while now. If he beats Israel, he's probably putting himself in line to fight the winner of that particular matchup. He's putting himself right there in the mix. So it's not the worst place to be, but if you stay there, that's where you don't want to be, because then you're never the next one to be getting the title shot. He's still in a place where if he gets a big win here, he might not be next, but another win, and then he's back in the spot. But I think even now he is technically a gatekeeper, which again, it's a term that gets used in a negative way a lot of the times because people stay there for a long time. If you're a gatekeeper in a division, means you're the guy they got to beat to move on. Sometimes you win, sometimes the other guy wins and moves past you. But as of right now, that's how Nasruddin Imavov is going to be looking at him.
Well, Nasruddin Imavov, 15-4 10 stoppages, great striking, pretty big for the division. Only person to beat him, Sean Strickland. He mixes up his double leg takedowns really well. He has nice elbows. He's got a great ground game as well. Vicious on the ground. So it isn't an easy fight. It's not an easy fight. However, I know you're commentating the fights and I'll be on the desk so I can make predictions. I think Izzy controls it. I think this is one of those fights where he's kind of got the blueprint to beat these kind of guys. He's a faster striker. He's a more technical striker. He's been doing that for years. And, kind of stopping the takedown, sprawling and brawling to simplify it. That's what he's built a career on. However, this will be an interesting one because Imavov, a couple of years ago, wouldn't have beaten Israel Adesanya. If Izzy loses this fight, then the future is going to look very, very different. If Izzy can win this fight, it's saying to the whole world, hey, look, listen, all right, Drake has got me, Sean, whatever. We can always make excuses. He can talk about, I was arrested for drink driving before the Sean Strickland fight and stuff like that. I had a lot of distractions. He was going on about dogs and all the shit got into my head. Do you know what I mean? There's all that kind of stuff. But regardless, I think Israel Adesanya picks him apart on the feet, wins the decision.
Yeah. I mean, I can for sure see that happen. Obviously, I'll be calling. I can't make the prediction, but I mean, I can see a path for that to happen 100%. But
I'll be the one with a set of balls here, Paul. It's fine.
I just don't want to lose my job.
No. You can't do it. You can't do it. All right, this one I'm excited for. Sharabullet. Sharabullet. Michael Venom Page, MVP stepping up to 185. One win over Kevin Holland, one loss to Ian Gary. What do you think about this one, Paul?
Oh, I think it's a good fight. I think this is a fight finally for Michael Venom Page where I think he gets to really showcase his skills to the fullest. I think this is a guy that's going to stand with him. I really don't think Sharabullet's going to suddenly become a wrestler. I know that Michael Venom Page seems to have a knack for turning guys into that because of his awkward karate, traditional martial arts style that he brings to the table. But I think it's going to be a striker's delight. I think it's going to be fight of the night, probably. Honestly, I think they're going to do some crazy shit, to be honest. I think it's going to start getting that way. And I think Sharabullet's the type of dude, if Michael Venom Page does something crazy, he's going to try to one-up him. And I think if it goes the way that I think, that's how it's going to just go. It's one guy is going to try to do some crazy thing. The next guy is going to try to match that. We might see the double spinning back fist come up. I don't know. Hopefully.
Well, let's take a look at that. Brian, I put it in the notes. I mean, that spinning back fist from him was unbelievable. And it was creative. It was unique. We've never seen that before. I'm sure it exists in Muay Thai or kickboxing. But this is the fight that I'm looking forward to. I think this is going to be the fight of the night. Look at this shit here that he pulled off. Side kick. Hold on. Spin and then back the other way. Unbelievable. Everyone. I think it was it Saudi Arabia or Abu Dhabi? It was Abu Dhabi, I think.
That was Abu Dhabi, yeah.
The world went mental. Now, this is the fight. This is the fight because Michael Venom Page, when he fought Kevin Holland, there was a takedown element there. When he fought Ian Gary, he was definitely looking for the takedowns. Sharabullet has got absolutely no designs on taking him down. Michael MVP's taller. He's got a big reach advantage, a 7-inch reach advantage, which is quite significant. But when you look at the styles of the two strikers, you've got Sharabullet, who's more of a conventional striker, stands there in a normal stance, puts together combinations, beautiful kicks, nice combinations. MVP, very unorthodox, more of a karate stylist. The hands are super low, like a point karate style, a la Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, covers distance and range, extremely quick. Very, very weird strikes and timing. He'll come over the top with crazy elbows, flying knees. It's going to be volume, I think, on the side from Sharabullet and like outside pot shots, dangerous shots from MVP. And I just don't know who's going to win. I really don't.
Yeah, I don't either. I mean, obviously, I can't make the prediction anyway, but every time I think about it, I don't know. I don't know. I think Michael Venom Page really hasn't really reached his limit yet in the UFC. I'm hoping that this one is able to bring that out of him and start to land those strikes. And you talk about when those hands are down that low, he has such a good job. He'll look this way, go and throw punches from this angle, he'll start shimmying and doing all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff and styling on you. So I really hope that we see.
I shouldn't have done that. I haven't got the fluidity. Hurt my neck. But you're right. MVP. Nah, man, he's awesome. I'm torn in this fight because on one side, I have my one-eyed brother. And what Sharabullet has been doing is phenomenal. We have a lot in common, and I know how hard it is. And to see the fluidity of striking, the way he's so accurate, I know how hard that is with the lack of depth perception. Okay, it's unbelievable. But then on the flip side, MVP, he comes on the show. He's a great guy. He did Tales from the Octagon. He's English. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, oh, I'll go with MVP. And I hope you do it, brother. But Sharabullet, he has a special place in my heart as well.
Yeah, it's a tough one. You're torn there, Michael. But I think you got to go with the countryman. You got to go with the.
I got to do it. And then the other fight on the card that I'm very much looking forward to, that I guarantee, this is a guarantee, somebody's going to get knocked out. Sergey Pavlovich, the knockout artist, against Jairzinho Rozenstruik. These only have one way to fight. It's in a phone booth, swinging with everything that they have. Someone's going to go down. I'm going to say Sergey Pavlovich. I think the bubbles burst. I think Tom knocked him out. He looked a little gun shy against Volkov. I think Jairzinho is going to get on the inside, swing some big shots, and drop him. But I could be wrong. One of them is going to go down. I do know that.
Yeah, and that's a fun one to be thrown right in there in the middle of that main card. Just two big boys that obviously are going to go in there and try to take each other down. Knock each other down. And Pavlovich, he needs to get a win. He needs to come out and prove he was the boogeyman for a little while there. And guys start figuring you out, man, and they start showcasing that. He's really just a big puncher. Volkov showed that, if you can box him and stay away from that danger, he's very beatable. And Tom just was Tom on him. You know what I mean? He's too fast for most of these heavyweights. He's too damn fast. But Jairzinho is nowhere near the explosive power that Aspinall has. He's a thudding puncher, but the speed is not there. So I think it's going to be more of a slugfest. And whoever lands that big shot first, I think is going to sleep.
Yeah, that's essentially it. And when I said Jairzinho Rozenstruik, it's just a feeling because of the momentum. Well, he's had losses as well, to be fair. One of them's going to go down with a thud, and one of them is probably going to be unconscious.
Hopefully. That's the fight where if that goes 3 rounds, I'm going to be sitting at the table going,
Well, it's a double-sided equation, because if it goes 3 rounds, you have more work to do. I have less, because on the desk, when there's a quick knockout, they cut to the desk and we fill a few minutes because we've got the airtime slotted out. But for you and for when we're commentating, the results of the fights play a massive, we've never spoke about this, they play a massive role in kind of our enthusiasm, because we sit there, and I love doing it, and I'll do the commentary for free. They pay me to travel and be away from the family, but sitting there calling the fights, I'm blessed. I love doing that, and I know you feel the same. But when it's decision after decision after decision after decision, it can be hard to keep that same energy, but when there's knockout after knockout and you're losing your mind and you have those viral moments, that's when it's the best job on planet Earth.
Yeah, it's just it's so much easier. It's just more organic. We're getting hyped up when it's, and again, it's some nights it's just going to be slower. There's going to be more decisions. The more competitive they are, it happens. But you're right. Trying to, for people at home, it's 6-7 hours. Now, granted, it's only 6-7 hours of that week, and we have a lot of downtime in between that. But it's a long day, especially for broadcasting of a sport like NFL. All these guys. That's not a long broadcast. You're talking a few hours. We're there calling some of these 14 fight cards 6-7 hours. And if every one of them is a decision, it's a long day, and it's hard to keep that energy up. And half the time we got to pee our brains out most of the time. We're sitting there drinking coffee and energy drinks and water and all this. And we're fighting on the talk back on the mic, trying to, who's next? They're like, oh, Michael already said it. I'm like, oh, damn it. And I see you run off. And if you're calling him with John Gooden, I'm calling him with John Gooden, Michael. So I'm never going to get a chance to pee. That dude has to pee every other fight. He's got to go to the bathroom.
I'll take the Pepsi challenge on the weakest bladder, though. I'm telling you, I run off constantly. I'm like, can I pee again? And it's because, again, we got to keep the energy up. So we're pounding caffeine all day long. You know, and Deirdre, she works behind the scenes. She brings like a gigantic Starbucks for me when the main card starts. I down it because I want to get energy. And I'm like, oh,
and we've already had like 3 coffees leading up to that one when the main card starts. And then they bring it. I'm like, oh, yeah, nice. It's like, all right, I got to pee again.
I'm always sprinting off to the toilet, and you run into fans. And normally when I stop, you know, people come to the UFC. I'll stop. I'll give them my time. I'll take a picture or whatever. But when you're live on a broadcast, you've just got no time. And I'm like, I'm sorry. And they're like, Bisping picture. And I'm like, guys, I can't. I'm live on air.
Yeah. I'm literally I'm working right now. I'm only
on
getting
TV.
This to go and sprint to the bathroom. And depending on what arena we're in, like Apex, easy. It's right in the back, no problem. But these arena shows, sometimes we don't know where the closest bathroom is. You get there, and sometimes like our dressing room for the commentary team isn't necessarily the closest one. We got to go find some random one. Sometimes have you ever done it where you go out and they're like, oh yeah, the bathroom's right here. It's where the crowd is going to the bathroom.
Yes.
You're like, oh no, I can't. And you're standing there taking a piss, and you'll have guys being like, oh shit, hey Paul, what's up? Can I get a picture? I'm like, maybe not right now, bro. Maybe not right now.
Saudi Arabia, I commentated there last time. It's a trek. It's a trek. And there's a lot of course, there's a lot of very important, powerful people backstage. And I'm running, you know, with my suit on. I'm still trying to look as cool as I can, but I'm scurrying along, you know, doing that half run. But there's a lot of twists and turns, right, to get to the bathroom. And I've got one eye. Do you know what I mean? And I'm a clumsy bastard at the best of times. And there's a lot of, as I say, you know, they look like sheiks and stuff like that. And last thing I want to do is run around a corner, poof, and bulldoze into the wrong person and knock them flying. You know what I mean? So just be aware. Some of those corners, when you're turning them, you know, you might take someone else. So just go easy on that one. Anyway, there's our UFC Saudi preview. I have got to pack real quick. I'm going to miss my goddamn flight. If you have a question, send the questions in for Paul and I. Paul told us a couple of stories there. We're just scratching the surface on the real Paul Felder. We want to know more. We want to know personal stories, Paul. So if you've got a question for me, or please for the Irish Dragon, the Iron Lung, of course, send it into bympod@gmail.com. Do us a favor, leave a comment down below. It helps the algorithm. Like, subscribe, ring the bell, all that shit. Help us out. The rinky-dink little Believe You Me podcast. We need all the help we can fucking get. Brian,
let's go.
Do we have a question?
We have a written question here I thought was pretty funny. Dan Douglas asks, just curious if Mike ever got poked in his bad eye during a fight. And
well, go on.
And would even acknowledge the poke and taking the time for it, even if it didn't hit your eye.
This is the thing. I was talking about this the other day because it doesn't matter. It's the pain of the poke, whether or not the vision or whatever. All right, if I take that eyepiece out, if I touch the eye, it's still sensitive. Still feels like I'm touching an eyeball. So it never happened, but I think I would have done.
Yeah. I mean, it's still it's still not nice to get poked in an eyeball.
Let's give it a go. Hold on. It's not as sensitive, I'll be honest.
Really?
It's not. No.
Yeah, but that's just not pleasant for anybody.
It doesn't work too well. Anyway, we're low on questions. Guys, get your shit together. Believers, come on. There's a lot to learn about the Irish Dragon, okay? And we want to extrapolate it out of it. We want to get the good stuff.
There's more stories where that one came from, about the growing up in Philly. A lot of.
Oh, I'm sure.
A lot of scraps.
I'm sure. We want to hear all about him, but I'm going to catch a plane. Paul, you're the man. Brian, thank you very much. Dude. Harrington is absent today.
Unbelievable.
People always say, fuck you, Harrington. Well, fuck you, Harrington. Jesus Christ. Guys, thanks for watching. We got to go. We'll see you soon.